Casey, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate your time.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. It's awesome that you put on this show. I'm excited.
So I'm talking to you as a bit of a dual barren talented guy at the moment. You make movies, you make games. Like what don't you do? Where did it all begin? What
I
was the first thing that got you into a creative industry?
I just like entertaining. I actually went to business school, and I was looking across the way at the film school, and I'm like, they're having a lot more fun than we are. And so I, I I switched over to that, and that just got me, you know, fulfilled, the creative side of my brain that I had to have, and it worked out well for me ever since. So it was a good decision.
So is that how Lost Boy Entertainment was formed? What was the story of that after uni?
Oh, so Lost Point comes from Peter Pan, which is my favorite story, franchise, entertainment thing out there. Just that's what resonates with me. And so I always knew we were going to be called Lost Boy Entertainment. And when I finally, graduated school and got everything up and running, I had a lot of family members that helped me out in the early days to make it all come about. But now, yeah, we made a movie and made a board game, and we're hoping to make more entertaining products.
So what came first, the movie or the board game?
The movie came first. That's more of my day job is screenwriting. But then sometimes you just get a little burnt out, and you need to do something else. And I uh, I was looking for a hobby that was still something that was creative and something in the field of entertainment, and that just transitioned into board gaming so naturally. And so it actually kind of started out as a pet project, and then when we started playing it and people started testing it, they're like, "Oh, this is good. We should do this for real. We should add a board game division." So what we did.
And you're like, fine, I've just finished
Fine, I guess we'll
a
do it.
feature
Yeah,
film. I'll make a board game
it was just
too.
supposed to be a fun hobby, just to
I got
when
five
I
minutes.
was tired of screenwriting. Yeah.
So I'll come on to the game in a bit, but I'm fascinated by the fact that you're a guy who makes films and board games. It's
Yeah.
an interesting combo. So the movie you made, you among Thieves, you wrote this, you directed this was your complete project, right?
Yeah, we did it all in-house. So I actually, when I first graduated, I was writing for Disney, and I was working with them, and I was kind of looking around, and they weren't really making new projects. Like, they were having us write, but it was only like Star Wars, Marvel, Pixar. They weren't in the business of making anything, original, really. And so I said, I'm going to leave and I'm going to make my own movie. And so we, just from being in the industry, crew members and actors, and we got a team together, and we designed it to be, feasible. It's on the low budget spectrum, but it looks and sounds like a real movie. You would never know that we did it on the cheap. And, it turned out well. And, we're quite proud of it that we were able to accomplish it. And, and so, we're working on the next one. We were always writing, but yeah.
So what's the plan for the next movie? Will it be a sequel, a follow-up, or a completely new story?
Well, right now I'm actually I've been taking meetings for this new TV show, like a pilot. That's at right now we have a bunch of meetings at Netflix. So we got the team together. We got the actors attached. We found a showrunner. We had what's called the package.
Yeah.
And so we presented the package, and we're waiting to hear back. So, fingers crossed that'll be the next big thing.
Well, congratulations. I mean, it's Netflix. They say yes to everyone, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. So.
So I want to come on to the game now. Plunder is your first foray into board gaming, as well as Among Thieves is your first foray into movie making. You're doing it all at the same time, and like the movie, you've created something that just looks so beautiful, so polished. You're getting so much feedback from the board community about just how well put together this game is. it's like it's come from a big, massive publishing house that's made hundreds of years. Like, how did you do that?
To be honest, when I first started, I thought when I first dove into board gaming, I kind of thought the whole quality thing was overrated. Like I didn't appreciate it at first when I bought games because, well, as an American, like the games that we play are not, they don't have that Kickstarter like quality. They're not works of art. They're very, any game on our shelves of any big box store, they kind of looks like clip art. It's very, very basic. And that, to me, I was like, well, that's what a board game is. But then once I dove more into everything and once I found Board Game Geek and found all you guys and saw what you were doing and the games you were playing, and I was like, oh man, there's a whole nother world out there, and they've taken it up to a next level. And so once I saw that, I was like, man, because Plunder's basically a gateway game that I made for the masses because I want the general audience to do it, and I saw everything, all the high quality stuff that you guys were all playing and making, and I was like, man, that should be just the standard over here. Like that people need to realize that's the way it should be because there are just some pretty games out there. And then I found our graphic designer Chris, and he just made everything look so pretty for us because for being like a filmmaker and creative guy, I can't draw or do anything like that, and I handed him over like some clip art stuff that if you looked at it, that would be very embarrassing. And he took that and he ran with it. And, and when we were going over the quality of the products and stuff, and I decided, like when you're doing the manufacturing, it's interesting because the game, will cost this much. But the premium version, just to add all the nicer quality, thicker cardboard, it just costs that much more. And I don't think people realize that just to get over that hump, I thought financially it just made sense because now I'm obsessed like everybody else with the quality of games. And so I'm hoping, and from our reviews of just your average Amazon customer who just bought the game on a whim, who isn't a hardcore board game, even they're commenting on just the overall quality, and that's what we wanted, was for like your average person to go, wow, this is quality stuff.
I mean, I guess the reason why what you said happens in that the bigger publishers decide to make those cuts, even though the margins aren't massive, is just profit, right? They want to sell a $50 game and make as much profit as possible. Whereas
exactly.
As an independent, you want to make it as good as possible. That's the difference, right?
Exactly, yeah. Because I think higher quality will result in better sales, obviously. And once I started looking at the the quote from the manufacturing, it's interesting because one of my pet peeves in board games is the rule book, because they always try and you could have why have a 20-page rule book when you can only have a 4-page rule book, and squeeze everything in with little baby font and tiny pictures and stuff because they're all trying to cut costs. But I was looking at it and I'm like, the rule book's the cheapest part of the game. Like you could add an unlimited amount of pages and it goes up by only like 2 cents, and so I'm like, why would we have, I don't want to be like everybody else with tiny little font and and not thoroughly explaining the game and stuff. And I'm like, we should just go all out. It just seemed to be the better decision. And I, my margins may be smaller, but I get to hear all the feedback and the compliments, which, obviously make up for it all. So
imagine with the components for your game, that for somebody who would be looking at just pictures of it, they're going to want the game just from what they see. Like I'm talking about these guys. I mean, they are,
people love those.
So cool. I mean, the funny thing about board games is essentially it's adults playing with toys. And I kind of, no, we're not.
All about.
But here, literally, we are playing with toys. Like, this is just the coolest component in a board game ever. I love it. I mean, you just must have had so much fun when you saw
I
this
did.
first prototype come through.
I mean, the upgradable ships are the best part. You know, watching kids just play with them and you know, put pegs in the wrong holes just to have fun, and you know, they'll play with those pieces outside of the board game. Like they'll just take those pieces and go mix them around with their current action figures and stuff, which is hilarious to me. But
Yeah,
you know, that's part of the fun.
for sure. I mean, that has happened in my household. So yeah, for sure. I mean, since this game has arrived at our house, we've played it so many times, and
That's great
I
to
only
hear.
want to talk about the first game experience because I played with my kids and my wife all the time. But the first time we played this game, it was just me and my two children, and it was Friday night, last Friday. And my son's 7, and I played like big games with him. Like he plays side
Yeah.
with me. He'll sit down and
Oh
play
wow.
for 2 hours, no problem.
Overachiever.
Yeah, but my daughter, she's 5, so she plays things like Love Letter and a lot of Habba games and stuff. Um, but she's never played a game that's lasted, I'd say, more than 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And we had a game of Plunder, and we took our time. You know, it's not a long game, but we took our time. We're having fun with it. I reckon we played for an hour and a half. We had like pirate music on in the background, and it was an hour and a half solid gaming of just the three of us. And she, as a 5-year-old, was absorbed the entire time, absolutely loving it. And I just think you've created just a phenomenally brilliant family gaming experience. Like you say, it's a gateway game, and I get that because it's got you know, some easy to digest mechanics. But you know, someone like me who wants to play more advanced games can absolutely enjoy this with my
There's
family and
something
other
for
people.
everyone.
I
Yeah.
really think so. There's a lot going on there. So I have to say, I said to my son earlier, I'm going to be talking to you today, and I said to him, do you have any questions that you want me to ask him? And he said, yes, Daddy. Ask him if he's got any expansions played. It was fun.
We're not yet. I've been getting ideas, and people are always submitting. It's great that people want more. You know, it's a great feeling to have that everybody wants. You know that, and everybody keeps submitting ideas. Like you know, you could have a Kraken expansion or a Ghost Ship expansion, and you know, there's all these things that they could do, and some people actually already kind of do those things. I've had people submit things where they play with a ghost ship that's always kind of haunting the board, and they do all these things, and you know, it's so fun to hear all their thoughts and what they do, and but one day we'll have actual expansions, and so you could tell them one day. I don't know if it'll be soon, but
I mean, I definitely think you should because the game has got so much to it that these boards, you know, the art is beautiful. Obviously, double-sided, 6 of them modular. So you've got, you know, each game is going to be completely different. But there's just such a sense of exploration as you're going around these boards and going to these different islands. It just seems like the game is set up for so many different types of expansions. Those 2 ones you said there with the Kraken and the Ghost Ship, that would be amazing. Like extra things, characters on the board.
yeah, exactly,
Sounds
yeah,
amazing. And I really like the idea of being able to, like, each island has something going on about it. If you go to it, something's there. Like,
yeah,
it could be anything, like a hidden tribe of people or some hidden treasure that you didn't know about or whatever. I don't know.
yeah.
But it's just the world feels so big and deeply thematic. I just think you've created a universe here that deserves just a ton more stuff coming out for it because the game just it's so fun. Like it really surprised me at how much it got me because I want to talk about the mechanics of it. The game's a roll and move, and roll and moves have a certain what's the word? Like a
They, they
history
get
to them.
they get a bad reputation with the hardcore gamers for sure.
I think so. The history of roll and moves are the games that we all played as when we were kids in the 80s, and they were bad games. And
Yeah,
it's weird because like there were great games out in those times. Like Cosmic Encounters was out, but everyone's mum went out and bought Monopoly instead. It was
yep.
like, why? Buy Cosmic Encounter. Like, what are you doing? But yeah, I think the roll and moves have got the bad history from those games. But it doesn't mean the mechanic's bad. It just means there's bad games that have used that mechanic. And I think
Yeah.
what you've done is you've reinvented how fun the roll and move can be. But does it bother you, like the history that is associated with roll and move?
It does bother me because we'll get it obviously you never hear about it from your your app your you know the masses or the general audience. I only hear about it from a few hardcore gamers, and a lot of hardcore gamers recognize that, like, oh, it actually is used well, and it fits the theme, and it is a gateway game. And some reviewers, they'll be like, oh, roll and move, I can't play this, which is kind of like, okay, buddy. But it's I think we do it in a way that works, and you're able to, by adding mass and stuff, you're able to increase your odds and roll and give yourself an advantage in that way. And I always think the fact that the board is open-ended and you could go everywhere makes it much more different than your traditional roll and move, where you're just on a track and then you could only just go one direction, and you're just And so I think the open-endedness of it really works. And what I actually, where a lot of the entertainment comes from, is that, if there's a treasure, if there's an X right here, and you're 3 spaces away and I'm 5 spaces away, if we had a set number of moves, if it was like other games where just like you got 3 moves or something, I already know that you could get it before me. There's no mystery involved. Whereas if there's a die roll involved, there's that excitement of, like, I could actually beat you to this, and since if there are set moves, like if you're just like, all right, everybody gets 3 moves, you could kind of always calculate the best move on the board, because you know exactly what's going to happen, because everything has a set move. There's no unknown variables. And so I always think the die rolling is half the fun of the game, of because it lets your personality shine through, because you're like, I know the odds are against me, but I'm a risk taker, and you just go for it. And so, and some people are risk adverse, and it allows for them to do their thing. So it allows your personality to shine based off all the probabilities, and so I think that's where half the fun comes in. So
for sure. And in that scenario you give, where one person's 3 away from the treasure, another one's 5 away, let's say the other person gets there first, fine. It's not like there's nothing else to do. There's going to be more treasure on the board, and maybe instead of going for that treasure because you've now got it, I'm just going to use my double cannon ship to sink you instead.
Exactly.
I mean, there's so much fun to be had in it. There's so many choices, so many different ways to get the plunder points, so many different ways to win. I think the biggest compliment I can play this game, other than the fact that it's the first game my daughter's played that's lasted more than an hour, and it was an hour and a half and she's 5, is that then the second time we played, when my wife played and we did a 4-player, was both my children said at the setup is, Daddy, why did we stop last time? Oh, because someone got to 10 plunder points. Okay, can we play to 20 plunder points this time? They played an hour and a half game, and that wasn't long enough.
And they're like, no, I don't have my fix yet.
Exactly, and it's just, the game is just so customizable. Like you're saying, people are adding their own sort of in-house expansions. We're gonna add a longer game time to it by just increasing the amount of plunder points you need to get. It's just it's usually got this box of toys that it elicits a lot of fun, and I just think it is a brilliant game for people to play with their kids, play with their families, bring people who maybe haven't played a ton of board games, to let them know how good a production a modern board game can be. I think you've created something that's just brilliant, and the fact that you've done that whilst making your first feature film is just amazing. I love it.
It's interesting that you bring up the time frame with your daughter, because when we were initially doing it and I was getting feedback on the blogs from Board Game Geek, and just kind of, you could send in playtest copies to people, all their natural instincts were to make the game shorter. Not because they ever actually played it, but because they just go, oh, it's a kids, family, gateway game. Those are supposed to be 30 minutes, And I heard that so many times, and I was like, no, you're all wrong. And because what I find, what makes it work is the fact that it does kind of take you a while to get going, to build that empire. So like when you finally do build that second ship, it does feel like you've accomplished something, and you become emotionally invested in the survival of that ship, because now that you've taken the time to to build your empire and stuff, you have an attachment to it. If you could just willy-nilly just get stuff and lose stuff, there's no emotional investment. So I like that it kind of takes people, uh, like it's an adventure. It does take time to expand and upgrade your fleet and sail the seas and I think that's where a lot of just what we always say in storytelling, filmmaking, is the emotional investment that you want your audience to be invested in what's happening, and if you make them work for it a bit, if you don't make it easy, if you just make it slightly beyond what you think it should be, and they have to do that extra effort to get it, and when they finally do get it, they feel so accomplished,
Yeah.
So
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think people dumb down kids way too much. Would it be surprising to hear that my daughter, when she was 4, watched hour-and-a-half long Disney films? No, like it's totally plausible. What 4-year-old girl isn't sitting there watching The Little Mermaid? Like they're all doing it. So why, if they can watch a movie for an hour and a half, can they not play a board game for an hour and a half? Like
exactly.
You're totally right. And like I said, my kids want the game to be longer. If the game's fun for 5 minutes, why can't it be fun for an hour and a half? And I agree with you. I think the sense of building up your empire and trying to reach those 10 Plunder points in all the different ways you can get points is fun. And the last thing I want to talk about is the way the points work is a point is never a point until the game's over. You can always take an island off somebody. You can always sink somebody's ship, and both of those things count as points. So it's just, you never know. And the last game that we played, my son and I, we were like on 8, 9, 8, 7, 8, 9. Because we were not focusing on getting points anymore. We just focused on stopping the other one.
I'd stop with the other one.
Yeah. And it was so fun. And like, I don't want people to think that means the game gets take thatty or anything. It doesn't. It just gets fun. It means you're chasing other people around the board, and it's a really entertaining experience. And I applaud you for it. Like I say, doing this at the same time as a movie, crazy, ridiculous, but it's worked. You've got 2 brilliant products. One's a good movie, one's a good war game. So who cares? If it's good stuff, keep making it. I look forward to seeing what happens on Netflix. I presume if the meeting was like recently, it'll be on Netflix next Tuesday. So let me know when I can watch that. But Casey, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This was an absolute blast.
Cool. Take care.
You too.